I just found out that my husband of 48 years is cheating on me with the girlfriend of our 18-year-old son. This has me totally disgusted, and I don't know how to react. I'm going to use pseudonyms for anyone referenced in this post. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave your comment. It doesn't cost you anything, and you help me a lot. I am a 41-year-old woman, a housewife. My husband is a 48-year-old man who we'll call Paul. He works in finance. We have been married for almost 20 years. We have 2 children, whom we will name Eric, our 18-year-old son, currently in the last year of high school, and Mary, our 15-year-old daughter. Both are the light of my life. My marriage to my husband has deteriorated over the years for many reasons, such as the work schedule he has and the little time he can give me. Our son Eric has an 18-year-old girlfriend, with whom he has been dating for quite some time, since the first year of high school. We'll call her Amy. Eric absolutely adores Amy. She is his greatest love, and his first love too. She is someone I have always considered as part of the family. This makes the whole situation emotionally unbearable for me. Last week, I inadvertently saw my husband's screen. I glanced at a thread of text between my husband and Amy, our son's girlfriend, and read what looked like a message from her telling him that she misses being with him. I was paralyzed, totally incredulous. I spent most of the day convincing myself that I must have misread what I saw. However, I didn't get it wrong, because in the last few days, I discovered a file on your computer full of tons of adult content. He has also saved photos of Amy and her Instagram to his computer. Although they weren't inappropriate, she was fully clothed, still doing the test I needed to confirm that I wasn't going crazy. I also saw his phone at opportune times. I wish I had never looked at this. They were full of bad and horrible things said at my expense, and he constantly compared me to her. He called me fat, old, and among other things. Amy was just laughing. I've always had hunches or paranoid feelings that Paul was cheating on me, but never in a million years would I have imagined something like that. Last month, I found underwear in our bedroom that clearly wasn't mine. I turned a blind eye, being naive and acting like maybe it was our daughter's, even though it didn't make any sense. Not only is he cheating on me, but he is also betraying our son. I am completely devastated. I can't even find the right words to describe the dread I'm feeling. The anger, the shock, I feel very bad. I'm totally overwhelmed about how to handle this, because obviously action has to be taken, but I'm terrified of the kind of psychological blow it will be for our son. I have no idea how to approach this fucked up topic with him. I would not wish my situation or my worst enemy. I can't even believe I married this trash in the first place. And then my mind started racing, realizing that I started noticing unusual behavior in him around the time Amy turned 18. He was waiting for her to turn 18 to continue with her adventure. There are so many layers to all of this, and I am completely paralyzed with fear and dread. None of this makes sense. How is this possible? Am I such an idiot that I let all this happen on my watch? Eric adores Amy, and the thought of revealing this disgusting truth to her terrifies me. The impact on his young heart and mind could be devastating. I am pained by my 2 children who are innocent bystanders. I haven't told my husband because I'm afraid of the domino effect. I don't know who to go to first. I share my story not out of compassion, but in search of understanding and perhaps some advice from those who have had to deal with this. Update: I am divorcing my husband. I told my kids and talked to Amy's mother. My husband contacted a pretty good lawyer, the kind that would take anyone out of the trash. I saved screenshots of all his conversations with Amy. You could only get the last 3 months of iCloud. The conversations were mostly flirting and dirty talking. It was hard to digest, completely sordid, and I saw several negative things he said about me. His call history showed that he talked to her for hours on a fairly consistent basis. Used dating apps. I took screenshots of their profiles and all the active chats I had with other couples. It's very clear that it uses a filter to search for girls between 18 and 22 years old or so. I copied all of his files from the computer. Among these, rather obscene chats and photos. Marcy, and he spends quite a bit of money on adult sites. I searched among all the possible hiding places that I could think of in the house. He had several toys, bandages, handcuffs, a lot of disgusting. She had different outfits that looked like Catholic school uniforms for girls and French maid outfits. I picked up my 2 children from school, and we all drove to my brother's house. They realized something was wrong when I picked them up. I told them the whole situation delicately and burst into tears. Mary is the one who had the most anger, even more than Eric. I met with Amy's mother and told her everything. she confiscated Amy's phone and gave me the chat log. They were only there for the last 3 months, just like in my husband's cloud. Almost as if both were deleting messages at the same time. He told me that Amy sobbed when she was confronted. Amy basically told her mother that she will never understand that she and he are in love. I don't want to go into too much detail with everything he said, but suffice it to say that it's easy to assume that my husband slowly and methodically became his father figure, making him feel like he could trust him. And he took advantage of this, that she came from a broken home. Amy also insists endlessly that their friendship only turned romantic and physical recently, and before that, she said that he was more of a friend or a mentor. I faced Baul by Zoom. The expression on his face was terrifying. He turned red and looked very sweaty. I had anger and panic in my eyes. His tone of voice was very defensive and terrifying. I kept screaming, "Give me an explanation," over and over again, and none of that has happened. He was unable to speak without stuttering constantly and intensely. Nothing really made sense to me. I refused to tell him where I was, and he told me that I had no right to take his children away from him, and then abruptly left the call. My attorney is requesting sole temporary custody for Mary, and a restraining order for my husband as well. Mary is still the angriest. She is totally furious with her father and Amy. Justifiably, the truth, Mary is remembering times and moments when she saw her father interact with his friends, and he's messed up about it. Eric is clearly hurt, but he is very strong and very sensible. You want to see a therapist? The maturity that my children show makes me proud. They don't deserve this. Bambisi, we have brought everything to the attention of the authorities. I plan to be completely ruthless and ruthless in this divorce. I'm reflecting on how I've been treated and how I've become a shell towards myself, how I've had a very negative opinion of myself for the last 20 years because of them. I don't want to let this crap get away with it. I want to reinvent myself and move forward stronger than ever. Update 2. Thank you to everyone who has given me words of love and encouragement. They give me comfort, and that means a lot to me. I have received many comments and messages accusing me of faking the story, which interestingly also comforts me because all this seems unreal. Even to validate my own feelings that there are people who cannot even imagine that this is true. I wish it were false. I've been focusing and worrying about how others feel about it, kind of ignoring my own feelings that I'm trying to change. I go from anger to numbness like a light switch. We are all safe and still at my brother's house. We are very careful. And your home is safe. Paola has tried to call me on my mobile several times a day. I refuse to interact with him. And I'll have my lawyer handle all the correspondence. It scares me, frankly. My brother has a very secure house with an alarm system and security locks. We felt safe with him. Both my son and I have had checkups and tests. So far, it appears that we are both clean, based on rapid and immediate testing, but in the coming days, we will know for sure when the lab results come in. I'm not too worried. Eric has an appointment with a therapist early next week, which is very good and necessary. Right now, it's not him. He seems a little shocked and worries me. Yes, it is very internalized, and it is difficult to know what goes through his head. That said, he's attentive and has been talking to me, asking me how I'm doing and all that. He is not at all interested in corresponding with his father. In fact, he only calls me and has not tried to talk to either of his 2 children. I have a feeling that Paul is very nervous. He is afraid, and I think deep down he knows that if he investigates thoroughly, he will get into a good mess. That's what my gut says. I keep thinking about the Zoom call with him, and the more I think about it, the more it seems to me that you saw a man who was coming crashing down on him. The panic on his face was very evident. I offered Mary to talk to a therapist as well, but she doesn't want to see one yet. She says she's willing to do it, but she wants it to happen over time for herself. She has been asking her friends about her father, and if they have experienced any kind of bullying from him. His friends were open and sincere with her, and apparently, they felt that he looked at them a lot and perceived his presence hovering whenever they stayed overnight. One of Mary's friends went so far as to say that she felt quite watched, as if someone was watching her too much and complimenting the color of her yoga pants. At the time, no problem was raised about it, but in light of everything that has happened, it now seems strange. According to her, he sat in different areas or viewpoints to see her well. He also asked what kind of group of friends he had at school. Popular. I'm completely embarrassed to think that this happened in our house. As for everything that's going on with Amy, which is the main reason I had to write this update, I completely agree that she's a victim too. Many people have emphasized this, and I agree. I have done everything I could on my own to indirectly get me opportunities to get help. As I said, I told his mother, and she's been updating me on everything that's going on with Amy. Unfortunately, he is still living in an illusory reality, and I can only pray that he will eventually come to his senses. You don't want to see any doctors or therapists at all. She has been constantly trying to contact Paul because, again, she believes they are in love. From what I have been told, she has not been able to contact him, and he has been completely avoiding communication with her. Amy blames me for that, and she thinks I took her devices away and that I'm very controlling. Whatever truth your mother tries to convey, I have greeted with conspiracy theories and hostility. Amy sees me as a villain, and she continues to see Paul as if he is the hero of this whole situation. Her mom showed her screenshots of her dating app's profiles and matches, and she refuses to believe it, saying I photoshopped them or something. According to her mother, Amy keeps saying things like everyone is angry that she's found a real man, and that I'm only jealous that she takes better care of him. Everything she says pretty much matches some screenshots of their conversations, in which a lot of what Paul says is complaining about things I don't do for him in bed. Right now, they insist that she and Paul will be together for the long haul. Honestly, it's disgusting. I can only hope that Amy comes to her senses, but I don't think it can be done directly. Don't forget to subscribe and like it, leave your comment in the section below, and subscribe, it's free.